Hi, I'm Kevin Fleischman.
And I'm Marcy Robledo.
We are a couple of film programmers for the Over the Rhine International Film Festival in Cincinnati, Ohio.
And we also review music and movies from our youth and revisit them as a couple of older Gen Xers. And today we're going to review Maverick.
Staying a little in the present instead of going back to the past. But
Right.
we will go back to the past, of course, with Maverick.
And we'll go ahead and link the first Top Gun review where we revisited that film. And then this is just a continuation of that review. So we'll have the link in the description below. So Kevin, what did you think of Maverick, Top Gun Maverick?
I loved Maverick. Yeah, and no one's ever going to mistake it for, great cinema. It's not going to be walking away with, writing, directing, all those, top tier Academy Awards. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we get a couple of nominations, but I don't think this movie ever sets out to be that. I think this is theater cinema, and it's theater cinema, I think, at the finest I've seen in years.
Agreed. I had a good time with it, and it definitely did what it was supposed to do, which is it's a party. You're going to the movies to escape for a couple of hours, and it did exactly that, just like the first one. First one back in 1986. That's what we did. We just, in fact, as kids, most of us dreamt of what it would be like to be in the military and fly jets and so on and so forth. And then all these years later, just kind of revisiting that again. And this time with the movie, because they had cameras within the cabins, it just elevated the experience to N11. It was just phenomenal, just being able to see through the cabin and the top of the domes. And my favorite scene is when the missiles are going by. The four planes are in formation, and you see the missiles. I believe the Tomahawk missiles going by. For some reason, it kind of reminded me of Game of Thrones. And one of the battle scenes, the last battle scene when they're fighting the White Walkers. I don't know why that correlation happened, but it did. But meaning is just big experience, cinematic experience. And that's what it really set out to do. We do have a few problems with it, but we'll stay on track with the pros right now. Do you have any other comments about what you liked about it?
Yes, I'm sure I can come up with one or two.
Okay. All right.
I also loved, like you, I loved the aerial scenes. I felt like I was riding almost like reverse horseback on the actual planes. Like you said, they have the cameras right in front of the cockpit, and it was just so incredibly well done. I felt like I was actually where the camera was. Like I just imagined myself on the plane, my hands like gripping, for dear life onto the cockpit. And, when they spin around or go upside down, like I felt like I was being moved, not literally, but, figuratively in a literal way, if that makes sense. Like it felt like I was moving around. And I just, I can't celebrate enough that camera work that you just mentioned. I think the other thing that I loved is going to be, if I'm reading your mind like I think I am, going to be a nice maybe segue into an issue that you had with it. The other part I loved is the Val Kilmer scenes, seeing Val Kilmer come back, frankly, seeing Tom Cruise come back as well. We're in a different age now that we get to see, being in Gen Xers and, not being spring chickens anymore. We don't only see actors growing older, performers growing older. That every generation's got to see that. I think we're one of the first generations, though, to see characters get older. You've got Harrison Ford coming back as Han Solo in Indiana Jones. You've got Sylvester Stallone coming back as Rocky in the Creed movies. And now we've got Ice and Mav both coming back. And the scene between them just completely tugged at my heartstrings. You know, we talked about on the other show, the Top Gun show. You know, Iceman was like the most, I think, sane person in this entire film franchise. He's actually the most empathetic, which is not his persona at all. But I think if you really look at him, his empathy for his fellow human beings is actually pretty high level, and that continues in this movie and the scene with them. Yeah, I just loved it because I think the empathy that Iceman has and the love for his rival really stood out brightly.
Well, it speaks to maturity. You know, as we get
Mhm.
older, we just think of the world differently. And with those two, Ice definitely advanced in his career, and he was destined to do that. I think if Maverick became much higher than a captain, it wouldn't feel right.
Right.
Because to be a Maverick, you kind of
Hmm.
you know, Captain Kirk. He was, I think, the original
Exactly.
Maverick.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, when you have that mindset, advancing your career upwards really isn't that important, or as important. So I did like how it showed the juxtaposition of the two positions, but still the respect, because they started off at the same time. And so as
Mhm.
they went through the careers, even though they ended up on different levels, they still had that camaraderie, and Ice was still taking care of Maverick.
I mean, who would have thought, right? All
Yeah,
these years later, we're saying Ice. What a great dude. What a great dude.
exactly. So yeah, I mean, this film was definitely a throwback to the original, even though Joseph Kopinski, I'm gonna catch myself because I have Uncle Joe. No, it's Joe. My uncle is a Kopinski, Joe Kopinski. The director is Joe Kosinski. I'm
You know,
gonna. I'm
I
getting.
actually was looking at his name because I knew I knew this would come up, and it's almost like I know Uncle Joe too now. I can't keep it straight either.
My Uncle Joe Kopinski versus director Kosinski. So anyway, there's a clip, and I'll put it down in the description, where he's talking about he didn't want to lean too heavily on the past of the original, but this whole movie is about it's about that. And what I'm leading up to is the women. Kelly McGillis. Is it McGinnis or McGillis?
McGillis. Yeah.
I think I keep messing that up too. Kelly McGillis and Meg Ryan, the two dominant female characters in the first one, were just kind of discarded, and that was really distasteful a little bit. It definitely left a bad taste in my mouth, and I think there were a couple of opportunities where that he could have brought them in for Charlie, the astrophysicist. She could have come in the beginning and talked about the dangers of this mission, and really talk about the G forces and the weaponry and all of that, which would have been appropriate. And I mean, if they were worried about her physicality, which I understand, she's older now, and she's not nearly as fit as she was in the original 40 years ago. Okay, well then they could have worked around it and just done a headshot and like a zoom, and it would have been fine. I mean, not for nothing,
Yeah.
these kids
Oh,
were in training. They could have put her in training too. You know, there could have been solutions. And then with the Meg Ryan issue, I would have loved to have seen would have witnessed a scene where she and Maverick are having the conversation, where she's asking him to pull Rooster's papers. I think that would have been a really, really powerful scene, because that would have shown us more of the conflict that he
mhm.
had to face. And because Rooster's kind of like his son, his surrogate son, and he knew how painful it would have been to pull those papers and delay Rooster's career.
Yep.
So I think those are definitely two missed opportunities.
Yeah,
So,
I can't. Sorry, I can't agree enough. I don't think it would have worked to have Kelly McGillis come back as a love interest, and that has nothing to do with. I haven't seen pictures, but whatever her physical presence may be these days, I just don't think she was stupid enough to continue seeing Mav, right? So, but I love your idea of her coming in as a consultant. That would have been spectacular. And what I was going to mention, another thing I loved about this movie is they don't. I mean, obviously Goose is spoken of and referred to, but not as much as I thought it would be. But I just feel Goose in every single frame of this movie. And I cannot agree with you more. It was a huge swing and a miss not bringing Meg Ryan back in, just to add that extra element to the relationship dynamic that would have been not only Mav and her, but Rooster as well. So yeah, can't agree more.
I did also like, though, going back to the pros, the music. The music was just rock and roll. I mean, they nail the music. Absolutely. So with the first one, they hit the music out of the ballpark too. Yes. How many songs came out of that? There was the Berlin song, the theme song,
Danger Zone.
Danger Zone.
Yep.
The Jerry Lee Lewis song. That was kind of a versions of that song.
Yeah, which gets another reference in this one as well. There was a song during the volleyball match. I don't know if it ever became huge, and I can't remember who sang it, but there's definitely a song playing during that. And I think that got some radio airplay, nowhere near Danger Zone or Take My Breath Away, but yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think my musical highlight for this one was the is it the Who playing during the first training scenes in the air? I thought that was just the perfect musical choice for that.
Yeah. I agree. Again, it just goes back to it served its purpose of just giving us a good time.
Yes, exactly. You're right. That is what this movie is. It's not a thinker. It's not going to go out and have an impactful social message. It's pure entertainment. It's pure entertainment. It's fun. Like you said, it's just a fun time.
Is there anything else you want to mention about the movies before we go into our programming segment?
I was going to ask you something. I took my son and a friend to see a different movie when I went to see this, and the timing got mixed up. I thought there were going to be the traditional 24 minutes of movie trailers before Top Gun. So I walked in about 5 minutes late. And what I was going to say is, in your screening, because I talked to someone where this happened, did Tom Cruise thank you for coming to the movies? Okay, so I want to get your thoughts on this. I did not see that. So when I saw Tom Cruise as Maverick, he slipped that helmet on easier than any of us brush our teeth. I mean, it was just so natural. And there's no way he looks 60 at all, not even close. But my friend told me that she thought that during the little promotional thank you video at the beginning, he actually did look, better than any of us will ever look at 60, but he actually looked 60. What did you think about Tom's age, appearance, or just the fact that he's back as his Hall of Fame signature role, Mav?
That little thank you segment, appearance wise, he looked good. Even if he did look a little bit older than what he did in the film, I mean, he still looks good. I mean, you have people in their 70s, 80s just rocking it, and I think it's because of the attitude. If you're healthy, you exercise, you eat right, you get sleep, and that is your conscious decision to do all those things, you are going to feel better. you are going to look better. You're going to have that confidence, and I think that's what, I mean, he definitely exudes confidence. I did like that his hair was a little bit longer. Get the the
Okay.
natural hair coming through. But the message itself, on one hand, I thought was a little weird. But on the other hand, I thought, oh, well, that's nice of you to thank us for being here.
Like, no, thank you, Tom. Thank you for bringing this movie back. I honestly think he's underrated as an actual actor. I mean, I'm thinking about some of the films he's done in the past. Born on the 4th of July, Magnolia. I think we don't talk enough about how much chops this guy has. Like, he's I don't think he's never going to win like an Oscar. He's not that high quality, but I just kind of think of him as like, someone, let's say in the NBA, that almost gets drafted, but not quite. They're not quite good enough to be that top tier, upper echelon performer. The first guy that's not drafted in the NBA, if he goes to your local playground, he's going to just own everybody and dominate everyone. And I think that's where Tom Cruise is. Tom Cruise may not be top tier as far as artistic and performative abilities, but I still think he's really, really good. So when you put him in a role that does not demand a whole lot of, what we think of actorly skills, he's like that guy at the playground. Like he just dominated this movie. I thought he was great.
Now that you bring that up, I would like to see him in something that isn't uh, a Top Gun or Mission Impossible. I mean, a serious part, because he has proven that he can. In fact, my favorite movies of his are those that
My computer went out. Sorry.
are those like Born on the 4th of July, Magnolia,
Yeah.
even Taps. Taps is his, I believe, his first performance, and he just explodes onto the screen. And even though he had a bit part, he was just one of those characters that has charisma. I mean, he is a person who has charisma in spades. Unlike Aretha Franklin, who, if you recall, I can't remember what year it was, but she's pop, soul, funk, jazz, and then in a pinch for one of the Grammys, it must have been in the mid 90s, mid late 90s, maybe early 2000s, where Pavarotti couldn't make it. She sang his song, his operatic song.
I haven't heard that story.
I will find that performance and put it in the link in the description below. I mean, he is not that. He is not Aretha Franklin caliber.
No.
But if he decides to focus and really pick a script that can enhance and showcase his chops, his range, then I think he could quite conceivably win an Oscar.
Wouldn't it be great to see him, in the next 5 to 10 years, after all these Mission Impossibles, after all of this movie star acting? I mean, wouldn't it be great to see him take a role like you're describing and just crush it? I mean, that on one hand would be amazing. On the other hand, I'd be like, why did we spend so many I think we're at decades now, right? And just deciding to be a box office movie star rather than an actor. And nothing wrong with that. Like I said, this was a tremendous time in the theater. I would pay to see it again. But it would be pretty cool to see him take on something, go in a place he hasn't gone in years.
I think the process of movie making it can take a toll on you physically and emotionally and intellectually, but I think it allows him to feed his adrenaline junkiness. That's probably why he has selected those type of films, the Missions Impossibles, and where he can do all of these stunts. But I will, going back to Maverick, I do have one other little nitpick. It's the ending. I think it would have been stronger if they left it that he was shot down and he was shot down, that he was lost, because they all knew that mission was extremely dangerous, and for him to sacrifice himself for the other pilots, the younger pilots, I think would have been a much more powerful ending than the back and forth of he say Rooster saves him and he saves Rooster, and then Hangman comes in as at that point it felt like it was jumping the shark. But that's typical American movie making. Moving
Sure.
but
yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. It was an absolutely ridiculous ending, but I think the ridiculousness was definitely a feature of this movie and not a bug. As we talked about before, I don't think they were interested in powerful. Although I do agree with you. I would love to see that director's cut or that cut of the film. It would have been incredibly powerful. I don't know which I would prefer. I'm really kind of going back and forth now.
Mm-hmm. I would have liked to have seen him make the sacrifice.
Tom Cruise. It's probably in every contract of his. I cannot die. I will keep going. I mean, he's been chasing the fountain of youth for so long and so successfully. But yeah, it doesn't happen to me. Not this guy.
Right. You're probably right. But other than those few gripes, overall, I had a great time. Sounds like you did too.
Oh yes.
So what would you program for your film festival block?
Okay, so yes, if this is your first time joining us as film programmers, this is what we do. We take a movie and we surround it with other movies that think would go well with it, kind of like wine and cheese. I'm fascinated by this idea I mentioned before of watching characters, not just performers, but characters age and just the idea of time. So I'm going to pair it with Creed, where we see Sylvester Stallone take up Rocky again, and he's a completely changed man. He's grown so much. I cannot believe these words are going to come out of my mouth. But Sylvester Stallone should have won an Oscar for his performance in that movie. It was unbelievable. Just the emotional power of watching a character age, especially being a classic GenX film like Top Gun. These characters that, I heard somewhere that the music you love between ages like 12 and 17, it's like this, like a scientific thing, like it will be the music that means the most to you throughout your entire life. And that probably applies to movies. So watching these characters that have just been with us for so long that we love in our formative years grow old and develop with us as we do, I think is amazing. So I would pair it with Creed. And I might throw The Force Awakens in, was watching Han Solo and Princess Leia, Carrie Fisher, and Luke Skywalker all growing older. Yeah, I think that's it. How about you?
Okay, so I'm gonna show some love and respect to the ladies that were dissed. So Harry Met Sally with Meg Ryan, the great Meg Ryan film. Made in Heaven with Kelly McGillis and Timothy Hutton, and rounding all that out, Taps, which has Timothy Hutton and Tom Cruise. Taps
Nice.
is a military school film. So that's my block.
That's a great block. I love it. Yes, these ladies deserved so much better than this film. I agree.
So I guess with that, we'll go ahead and close this out. And folks, please like, share, and subscribe, and let us know what you think about Maverick. And if you agree with our blocks, or agree with anything that we said, just let us know in the comments, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.